Hello everyone, WoWbagger here again with a bit of a different video for you. Recently, Halo composer Marty O'Donnell has been playing through the Master Chief Collection on PC, and he came up with a little bit of a challenge. So according to him, the I Would Have Been Your Daddy's skull was never correctly found, even all these years later. If you remember way back when Halo launched, about 3 days later, there was an ISO leak of the game, and data miners were able to find out the correct sequence of rings to jump through to get the skull to spawn. Now, according to Marty, there are clues scattered throughout the level of the Covenant on Halo 3 that will lead you to this correct solution without having to just memorize the sequence. Now, I was quite young when Halo 3 came out, and I didn't even stop to look around this area back when. So I've come back and taken another look at it, especially after 2 new videos from Rocket Sloth and Rican Samurai, who did a great job explaining the music theory and a couple of the other clues, but it seems like they missed a few. Hopefully we'll get some closure from Marty that this is finally solved over the next couple days, and maybe we'll get something a little bit more solid than 4654534. So I'm going to summarize a little bit of what's recently been found out about this entire puzzle. So each of these rings on the level correspond to a different note in the B minor scale. And with all 7 of these notes, you can actually play the entire Halo theme, although it seems like only 4 of them are needed to complete this challenge. So starting from the lowest, we have B, and then going up to C sharp, and then to D, E, F sharp, second to last is G, and the final ring by truth is A. So the goal is to create the last 7 notes of the Halo theme by jumping through the corresponding rings to the notes. And so I can say I added something to the Halo conversation that you probably haven't heard before. Here's Halo on an instrument you probably don't know. That was a 2-stringed air hoo. And those are the 7 notes that you need to play, except with hula hoops instead of stringed instruments. So now, why was this skull hard to find in the first place? I know it was quickly data mined, but nobody found it for those 4 days. So initially, as you go through this area, you're fighting Flood, and there is a very loud theme playing over it. And you know what I noticed going through this? The light bridge over by where Truth is killed actually makes a humming noise as well, completely separate from the sequence. So people just go through and don't notice it. So how could we have found it? So there's quite a few clues kind of scattered around. The most obvious one is that each ring creates a unique humming sound, which is pretty noticeable once you're listening for it especially, and there certainly are clues to try and make you listen for it. There are symbols, I believe you can see them here, right under the tip of the ring. They actually hide musical notes. While I kind of went insane, more than a little bit today, trying to analyze these things. Here's just a little bit of my Photoshop file where I was flipping them, inverting them, turning them horizontal, trying to relate them to clef notes. I even started looking into circular notation. I think Marty came up with his own musical theory and something. I think these symbols are unique to him, and I got into conspiracies and numerology, and please help, man. So, after all that, I came to a undeniable conclusion. Until Marty proves me wrong. I don't think the symbols really mean anything. They aren't any kind of clef notation, they don't seem to relate to the circle of fifths or anything I can find. Although they do have clearly defined quarter notes, and there's even a bass clef hidden in there. Right up here on the closest ring to truth. Here's another clue, just one of Truth's dialogues as you push through.
So far along the path that I must strain to hear the clumsy patter of their pursuit. Know this, my brothers. They may foul the way with their charred and broken bones, but they will not stop the journey.
Here's a hint that's been known for quite a while. Once Truth gets stabbed through the back by Arbiter, the theme you're supposed to play plays in the correct key. And here is by far the most obvious clue I think we have that I haven't heard anybody bring up yet.
Do not shoot, but listen. Let me lead you.
Yeah, the Flood were telling us how to get the skull.
Only you can halt what he has set in motion.
So it's time to put on my Pepe Sylvia hat one more time. Marty gave us one more clue, talking about key signatures, and I think it may have something to do with the broken red Installation 04 ring. I am not the one professionally qualified to be giving a music theory lecture, but there's this thing that I referenced earlier called the Circle of Fifths. It's used by musicians to basically figure out what key works well with other keys as well as what notes go with other notes. And I'm not sure if it's a synchronicity of me looking at multiple circular objects for extended periods of time today, but one ring started to look like the next, and here's an overlay of the two. You can see that the broken ring segments line up quite nicely with the B minor key, which is what the theme is in. Coincidence? Probably, but I still found it quite interesting. So to wrap things up, I wanted to thank Marty for the challenge. I never would have looked into this. I didn't even know that the controversy or even the mystery of the I Would Have Been Your Daddy's Skull existed. I'd also like to thank Rican Samurai and Rocket Sloth for their 2 videos, which is what inspired me to make this one. I will leave you all with the beautiful concert that plays once you finally get the skull. Hope everyone's surviving out there. Have a good one. And thus felled by his own hubris, Chief returned to his native plane of existence.